Welcome to the Impact Roadmap, a podcast designed to give you the practical, concrete steps to grow your nonprofit or future-forward business in a sustainable way. I'm your host, Joey Goon. Let's get into the episode. Hey friends, my name's Joey Goon, and welcome to the Impact Roadmap podcast. I'm here today with two wonderful friends from Cultural Leadership, and can't wait for the conversation with them. Super excited to have both of you in the studio today. So thank you so much for joining me, and Lachlan, who is the Switch master and editor behind the scenes here. Switching cameras, of course. And so Tamyka Perine is the CEO and executive director of Cultural Leadership. And for over 10 years, she has worked to help organizations realize and achieve their mission and their annual goals and their strategic initiatives. And she's a leader who is committed to ensuring that there are equitable opportunities and diversity, and those things exist within nonprofits and organizations. And Stephanie is also with Cultural Leadership. She is a WashU grad. Shout out to David Webb, who's on our team, who is a former WashU professor. I know he would really respect and admire you as a former, who's also an alumni of WashU. And you recently graduated from WashU. You're very passionate about social change and being a social change advocate. So you found a home at Cultural Leadership, and feel free to color in. What did we miss? What are the things that your bios did not cover that you think would be very helpful for our audience to know about why you do what you do?
I would like to add that during my time at WashU, that's when I found out that when I realized that I was so passionate about social change, actually starting off, and I get a lot of pushback about this, but I started off as a chemical engineering major. And as things kind of rose around social justice in St. Louis closer to my junior year, around 2017, that's when I decided to switch to African and African American studies and a minor in legal studies. Felt like that would give me a better foundation to actually make change in the St. Louis area. So I graduated with that degree, and 3 years later, here I am at Cultural Leadership doing exactly what I kind of dreamed. So
that's amazing. Yeah, and you were a graduate of the Cultural Leadership program as well, too.
Yes, exactly.
Which paved the path, I'm sure.
I graduated I participated in class 9 of Cultural Leadership, so that was about 9 years ago now. I will definitely say Cultural Leadership helped me with my leadership skills, my public speaking skills. It also made me see that I needed to kind of stick around and help make change for the better, I think, in St. Louis. That's when I realized that public schools were funded in such a disproportionate way, and there was no one really working to change that. That's something that I'm still very passionate about and would like to have a chance to help change. I'll say about my experience.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Stephanie.
Of course.
Tamyka, how about you, my friend? What are the details? Tell us a little bit more about you and the details that your bio did not cover.
Yeah, so you covered, I think, quite a bit. My upbringing was here in St. Louis, and I am passionate and dedicated to ensuring we have, like you said, a more equitable region, and that is what kind of drives the work that I currently do and have been doing for a number of years. I think that St. Louis gets a bad rep a lot of times, and because there's so many beautiful opportunities here and some amazing people. And so I really want to make us a more marketable region and make it a region that that people are proud to say they're a part of, and that people want to really come to be a part of and raise families in and grow in.
What do we need to do in order to get there?
Oh gosh,
I know that is maybe we bring the sky to the streets, because that is a big question, and I think that there is a lot that needs to go into bringing that into the world and into the community. But maybe what are 1, 2, or 3 things that we could do as community advocates and change agents to ensure that change happens in our lifetimes?
Yeah, so I think that obviously part of the negative press that St. Louis gets is surrounding the racial divide that we have here. And I think working actively to bridge that racial divide, and that will certainly help us take strides, but we have to come together as a community to be willing and open to do that and start having conversations, which is why we do the work we do. I also think that as our current mayor in the city of St. Louis is doing, is kind of pouring resources into historically under-resourced communities. That'll also do a great deal in kind of bridging the gap and ensuring equity in the region. I think supporting others who are open to doing the work will also be big, and support could look a lot of different ways. Financial support to nonprofits that are working in that way, volunteering with nonprofits and organizations, going out and actually voting for people who want to make sustainable change, make better change for the St. Louis region. We had an election yesterday, and the results are the results, but the voter turnout was not as great as it could have been. It was as good, I think, 2020, but it could have been even better. And I think what actually probably drove, some people say, the increase is the marijuana piece on the ballot. But I think if people put a lot of energy into understanding and supporting elected officials locally, not just nationally, because it's the local officials that really drive our everyday, what happens in our everyday lives, not really the national government, the federal government rather, that'll also do a great deal.
What is something that you would want our audience to know about you?
Personally?
Personally, professionally, whatever you feel called to share. Because we dove so far into the weeds so quickly. I think I just want to pull the lens back a little bit and get to know you as human beings. That might be helpful too for our audience. It's
okay, I'll start. So again, I was born and raised here in St. Louis, and I went to college in Alabama, and then moved back home. And initially, my degree was in psychology, and I planned on working with children, and realized fairly quickly that I didn't have the ability to disconnect myself in a way that would make me successful in that kind of work. And so I transitioned into kind of a different industry, which led me to realizing that mission-based work is what fed me. And so I've been doing that work kind of ever since. And I think that realizing my passion and my passion for St. Louis, the place that raised me, and seeing the potential in what we could be and the beauty in who we are, that is at the core of why I do what I do. I think that like I said, I'm born and raised here, went to St. Louis Public Schools, a product of the St. Louis Public School system, and seeing the state that they're in now, and just kind of, like Stephanie said, all the things, it has made me passionate about finding ways to make meaningful change and positive change in our region, and helping us reach our potential. That's me, who I am at my core. I love helping people. I love being there for people. I love helping people reach their potential. And I think I can really help St. Louis get there.
Was there a catalyst? Was there something that happened that was this dramatic thing in your life that you're okay, now I need to get involved and be the change that I want to see?
Actually, no. So there wasn't any big thing that happened. As my career was kind of shifting from working in psychology to not working in psychology, I started working with community and realizing that being able to see the impact on the community was what fed me, and that work was what fed me. I work with local food banks and helping raise money for local food banks, helping connect corporations to the communities they served, doing that kind of work and really getting in the community and seeing the impact of the work that I did. That was what initially kind of lit the fire for me to start doing mission-based work. And from then, with George Floyd and everything that happened, his murder, that kind of transitioned me towards social change. I guess that is obviously a big thing. The working in the community has been there, but what's pushed me towards a focus on social change and racial equity was absolutely that.
I just finished a book called I think it's called Work-Life Balance. The author's
What's
Matthew.
that?
I know exactly. And that's the thing, is he dispels the whole myth behind work-life balance. And he's like, and you literally just said what he says throughout his entire book. And it's that the more you pour into something that you love and you're passionate about, the more it lights your soul on fire. Mm-hmm. And that's why the whole work-life paradigm is like, if you have this whole challenge of like work-life balance, perhaps you're not doing the work in the world that you should be doing. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool to hear that it like lit you on fire so much so that it's like you pour into it, it continues to pour back into you. What about you? Give us the backstory.
I'm also a product of St. Louis Public School. Well, I went to a public school, and then I actually went to City Academy, which I'm sure some people in the audience have heard of that school. I think that was a great foundation for me. I did graduate from a St. Louis public high school, and that is when I participated in the cultural leadership program. Just a little bit about that, I will say that is when I recognized that St. Louis is so separated and segregated, from jobs to education to housing. There's just a lot of disconnect. And I think moving out of my cultural leadership experience and moving into college, attending WashU, and obviously having a very diverse set of peers and professors to interact with, I started to wonder a bit why me almost? I'd been put in this position to connect with all these people. I'd kind of been seen as one of the students that made it out and was doing successful, but not all the people who I grew up with were experiencing the same thing. And I think I'm a connector. I'm pretty gregarious. I'm pretty funny. I can have a conversation with a ton of people. And I think that's what's important to me, is connecting people and making sure that we start having those conversations. And I think when it comes to St. Louis, and as we think about changing anything, it starts with conversations and relationship building. And that's also the facilitator in me coming out a little bit. As far as an event that was sort of pivotal for me, it was the 2017 verdict where Jason Stokely was found not guilty. There was a lot of organizing on WashU's campus, and I sat there in the women's building right after we had planned something for planned a demonstration, but I just wondered, I'm thinking about my engineering curriculum. I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. I'd always been told in high school that I was good at it. Everyone was like, you're going to make it. You're going to be this great engineer and you're going to have this sort of impact. But I just wasn't seeing it. I didn't feel it in my heart. And that's when I realized it was literally at that moment. I'm like, I love all of my AFAS, African American Studies classes. I love my humanities classes. I love my women and gender studies classes, but engineering is just not quite doing it for me. And why is that? And as I talked about it with some trusted professors of mine, that's when I decided to switch my major. And it was like the light opened up at the end of the tunnel for me. And I started to see how I could impact St. Louis, and I think the world at large, with the foundation at AFS. And I think so many classes, so many majors, whatever you're interested in, I think a root understanding of just communities and diversity is important for us as we move forward in the future, and just look for communities that are interconnected and support each other. I also had the opportunity to study abroad in Dakar, Senegal with my program, and it really showed me just how much everyone's perspective and story really matters to us moving forward. They have very similar issues to like what we have in St. Louis when it comes to, people wanting to create a better community for everyone. And I think that if you believe that, you would like to connect with people, if you're someone who likes connecting with people, that is something that is a strength of yours. And if you want to think about, how can I start to make a change in my community? Start by connecting people. Start by listening to other people's stories, getting their opinion, just understanding them, and maybe you come to us and we could do the rest. But I think it's all rooted in that. And
I think getting outside your comfort zone. Because
absolutely.
We all live in these bubbles, right? And so venturing outside your bubble and meeting people that don't look like you, mm-hmm. and starting to build a relationship with those people that don't look like you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk a little bit more about getting out of the comfort zone as it pertains to scaling and growing a nonprofit. Because as an executive director and someone who is, also helping to lead the charge of any nonprofit, you there's so much that goes into that, and you've got to be able to embrace uncertainty and see the need to evolve and change as a blessing. Talk to us a little bit about what that means for you. Like, maybe take us through what a day in the life of an executive director looks like. Like, what are all the decisions that you have to make on a daily basis? Because people don't realize running a nonprofit, everybody thinks that it's as easy. I mean, not to say that running a small business is easy. It is really hard. But there's also a lot more expectations and pressure put on nonprofit executives because people think that, you're going to do it at a discount, and if you take money, there's shame, and you're supposed to do it for the passion. And it's like, no, you need to take care of you, because if you take care of you, you can take care of
Everyone
others,
else.
right?
Absolutely.
So take us through, like, what does a day in the life of Tamyka Perine look like?
I think for executive directors, it looks different based on size of organization. Like, we are a team of mighty three. So there are three of us at our nonprofit, and we are 18 years old. And so we're working to grow. And so for a team our size, we wear many, many hats. So it's literally everything from, preparing for a board meeting to, building our budget, to taking out the trash, to vacuuming the office, to, helping with programming, to, helping with professional development. Like, it's you wear kind of all of the hats. Like, you're fundraising, you're literally doing all
Everything.
of the things. And so I think for organizations that are the size of ours and are growing, because we're growing, it's not easy being an executive director. And also, you're fundraising to keep the lights on, and to ensure that you can continue to carry on your mission and continue to do the work in the community that is life-changing, that's impactful. And so it's, I have a couple extra gray hairs, since I've been in this role. But I think kind of what I pointed to earlier, being able to see the impact of the work that I'm doing makes it all worth it.
What would you say are the biggest challenges that you all are currently facing as you're scaling your nonprofit?
Well, one problem,
Challenge.
good challenge that we're having. So in the midst of Tamyka doing fundraising and connecting with people and taking out trash, she's also done a really great job of, not only making sure that we're sustaining and, producing all of our programs at the quality that we expect them, but also connecting with community partners to make sure that we're strategically moving forward in an impactful way. And that's the reason why we've been able to project so much growth for the next couple of years. We do have a lot of applications. So that is definitely one good challenge that we have right now. I will say another challenge of ours, just on the programming side, is just making sure that as we go from year to year and curate our programming, that we are continuing to include things that are impactful to the students and that are current, but also making sure that we approach these in the correct manner. And we don't ever want to tell the students what to think or, impose our own opinions on them. So presenting that information in a way that is unbiased and that we, highlight whatever perspectives are present in whatever that issue may be. We have to go and seek those out ourselves. And so maybe sometimes we want to have a conversation, but we want to make sure that everybody who needs to be at the table is at the table. And I think just continuing to make those sort of connections is a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, and I think kind of to your point, like with organizations that are seeking to grow, and as you start making connections and talking to people and building partnerships and building relationships, it's easy for someone to throw something at the wall and you're like, that's a potential funding opportunity. Let me jump on that. Or, let me take you up on that because you're going to give me money for it. But, making sure that you stay true to the work that you do and the mission of your organization is vital. We're doing that as we grow to really quadruple the number of students that we serve over the next couple of years. But it's easy to just start accepting funding for things that don't necessarily fit in your program for the sake of receiving funding.
Have you had that issue? Have you had like a donor or somebody on your board who's like, hey, shiny object over here, let's build this thing that, on this community because it's meaningful for me. And you're like, whoa, that doesn't really align with our mission, our vision, our values. Like, you've had that happen before?
Not in this particular role, but in previous roles I have had that happen.
How do you have those conversations? Because you have this individual who feels like they're giving you this gift, and you, as the executive director and director of development or director of advancement, you have to have those. I didn't. Is that your technical?
I'm development manager and senior facilitator.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. For now.
For now. There might be something waiting for you ahead. So how do you have those conversations without robbing these people of the joy that they think they're gifting you?
Yeah, I think for me, as those situations arose, I would have, honest conversations, but put kind of the gift into perspective. So say someone wants to donate a truck. Like, I think you should take this truck and go to schools and educate them, in schools and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that sounds great. So let's talk about insurance for the truck and what that'll look like. Let's talk about someone having to get a license for being able to drive the truck. What does that look like? Let's talk about, like, where are we going to house this truck? And so, like, walking through all of those pieces sometimes helps the light come on, like, oh, maybe this isn't the best idea. Like, let's revisit some other things. So I think having an honest conversation and putting things into perspective for the board member helps a lot when that comes up. I think, I kind of fibbed. I may have had a conversation. I think, as we start to scale, I think people are excited and they want us to branch out in other ways to other cities and do more things and things like that. But I've continued that. I've had the conversation and I don't ever shut them down and just say no. But I keep the lines of communication open and always remain respectful with them, because we need their ideas and we are grateful for their ideas and their passion, because at the end of the day, they are doing this to help support what you're doing.
For sure.
And for no other reason. So I think just putting things in perspective has really helped pull them back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We were in a workshop yesterday. So our partners, Raising Paddles, Shannon Mays, who's now Shannon Eason from Raising Paddles. Shout out to Shannon.
Congratulations.
She was sharing a little bit about how there was a recent experience where a donor offered a live auction item and it was jewelry. And so not really as widely, Lachlan, Pros Master, what's the word I'm looking for? Not what are you gonna say?
So it's very narrow.
It's very narrow for who
would want that.
Who would want that gift, opposed to a TV where everybody in the audience would bid on that, right? Yeah. So what they did, instead of saying no, we can't use this in the live auction, they said we can get so much more out of this if we put it in a raffle.
Yep.
And then people could buy raffle tickets. And it ended up raising $7,000, this piece of jewelry, because so many people that wanted the item were able to then buy a raffle ticket, where in a live auction, it may have only raised a couple hundred, maybe 1,000.
And we've done that before too.
So it's like, I love that. It's the simple reframe of just thinking about alternative ideas that can still make that donor feel even better about their offer.
Yeah, because they want to make a good impact. They want to make a positive impact and do good. And if you keep that in mind as you have these conversations, the conversations become easier.
Absolutely. Is there a fundraising myth that you'd like to dispel right here and now?
Yes. Fundraisers cannot just call Bill and Melinda Gates. Fundraisers cannot just reach out to Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
As much as we love and adore.
You don't have that power?
We don't. As much as we love and adore Worldwide Technology and the stewards and like all these people, like they're not just going to give to you because they live in St. Louis and you need money, which I think a lot of times happens. People are like, just call these people. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like it's not a thing.
I'll also say there's no magic behind fundraising. It's pure work and dedication, cultivation, stewardship. You can say a number that you would like for an organization or your fundraiser to raise for the year. But, if you don't have your donor research behind that, numbers that they've given before and kind of know what asks you're going to make, you don't really know if that number is going to come out. So I would say, just make sure that you have all of that research and you're producing an accurate number from what your donor database is. There's no magical, we raised $2 million last year, we're going to make it 5 this year, unless you have some solid sources that those extra millions are coming from.
And I think the other piece is like making sure that you let the development and fundraising piece help determine the budget as opposed to the programming, because you could want 1,012 things, but if on the development side you can't fund those things, then you're gonna have to pull them back. So have your development professionals really determine what realistically the organization can raise in a year, and then from that determine what you can do on the programming side or on the other side.
Is there a we talked. You talked quite a bit about cultivation and how fundraising is it's work. There's a lot that goes into cultivating and building relationships. It's network equity. It's who do you know and who might they know? Who cares about this? I love the question of what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what are your highest aspirations in life, and how can we accomplish those through us here at our organization? I'm curious, like, what's the most impactful conversation that you've ever had with a donor where you asked a question like that, or there was a thoughtful follow-up strategy and the donor was like, wow, you really surprised me. Is there one instance that really sticks out of like a follow-up strategy that you might have had? Or
I think when it comes to donors, like what's important always is connecting them to their passions. And so being able to say, hey, like I went to camp X, Y, and Z as a kid. And, I think that funding camps for kids because it changed my life is, that's what I would really like to do, but I don't know how. Like that, that's what the donor says. And then you say, well, actually, we have some opportunities that kind of match your passion. Yeah. I think having the opportunity to connect the donors and their passions to your work is what makes it all work. And I have had times where I've had conversations with some donors who've said, these things meant so much to me. These experiences meant so much to me growing up. And I just wish that more kids or more people could, experience these things. And then I was able to make that happen and still stay within the realm of the scope of what we did as an organization. It made everyone feel good at the end of the day.
Basically, trying to like summarize is you're inviting people into their joy.
Absolutely.
You're not, and I love, one of my mentors shared with me, you've got like, there's colleges and universities that teach people how to handle objections in sales. Stop handling objections. Stop trying to fight people, with something that doesn't align with their highest like purpose in their lives and what makes them feel joy.
Absolutely.
Go and find your second slide customers or your second slide donors, where if you're giving them a PowerPoint presentation and you're saying, here's slide 1, slide 2 is, these are the things we're trying to solve for. And they say, done, I'm in. That's your second slide customer. So it's find more people that will say yes, that their ideals, their values align with yours instead of handling objections for people that are just going to say no.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more energy enriching that way anyway.
It is. And it helps the no be more palatable.
Yeah,
for the
sure.
fundraiser. Because sometimes it can be a little discouraging, but
Are you familiar with Tim Kachuriak? Okay, so Tim.
Tell us.
Yeah. Tim Kachuriak is someone that I interviewed last week. So he has a company called Next After, and they do a bunch of data and research around like donor decisions. So I can connect you with him, and you can check out all the amazing work that they're doing. But I had him on our podcast last week, and he was like, sharing a little bit about how when you go to the gas station, the no button is always beaten up and used, where the yes button is,
interesting.
And he's like, so no matter where you go in life, you're much more likely to get no than you are yes, but you've got to fight through those no's. And here we are talking about handling objections. Yeah. The reality is anything that you do in life, it's a numbers game. You've got to sift through the no's to get those yeses. Yeah. So what do you want to brag about Like, people are afraid of feeling joy because they feel like it's boastful or arrogant. But like, and I personally feel like people that can't fully experience their joy are dangerous because they don't stop to celebrate the milestones and the little victories, the journey. And it's like the process and the journey is the destination. So fully brag on yourself, no judgment. What is one thing where you're like really feeling a ton of joy, or just like you're feeling super accomplished as individuals or an organization as a whole? Like,
I think for me, our organization's always been fairly small. But within the last year, I have increased our budget by about 25%, as well as am preparing to go to, like I said, quadruple the number of students we serve. And we're expanding even further into the community, so the community impact is going to be even greater. And it's something that I think the board has been looking for and wanting, and the community has needed for a long time. And finally, we're doing it. And so I think I'm most excited about that. Like, the impact on students that we're going to have over the next 2 years, 7 through really college students, the impact that we're going to have on organizations over the next 2 to 3 years is going to be significant. And I am so excited about that.
that's awesome.
I am most proud of just how we've been able to create community for the students that we serve. I started facilitating with cultural leadership in about 2018, and just to see how we're obviously rooted in Black and Jewish experiences, but of course we're not going to get the work done unless we have allies. And so previously we didn't highlight as many other identities in our curriculum, but that's something that we've definitely started to focus on. And as we have done that and have let these students share their stories and just, feel that they have a voice in the space and connect with other students, it honestly makes me emotional when I'm there in the moment. And, we started out at the beginning of the year, and students are very shy, not able to talk, don't want to come into a fishbowl that they don't know if they don't smile. I'll just go ahead and share one instance that's super important to me. We do one of our programs is centered around fishbowls, and essentially that is an activity where they share about their identities. And we didn't used to have one for queer students, but we were serving queer students. In 2019, we added a queer fishbowl, and just seeing those students being able to come into that space and talk about their experiences that, they have growing into themselves, and, the experiences that they have at their schools was impactful then. But this year we decided to actually do it twice. We did it once at the beginning of the year and once about 6 months later on our journey. And to see that fishbowl start out with 2 students actually at first, and then during the conversation, a couple more came in, and to do it on the journey. And we had about 9 or 10 students sitting there, and they're like, in this time, like, I've become more comfortable with myself. Like, I know myself better because of this program, and also the students, like my peers that I'm here with. I cried a little bit after. I didn't cry in front of them, but that's just something that, like, it's invaluable. And so many kids don't get that in high school. And so I think us being able to impact more students, not only with our main curriculum, but just giving them community and allowing them to build relationships with other kids that are like them and also not like them in so many ways is just amazing.
That's so powerful. You're inviting people to be who they truly are.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And hearing from one of the alumni, like, having the queer fishbowl saved their life. Mm-hmm. Like, they were depressed, and they were in a deep, dark space, and having the opportunity to be in a community where they felt as though they could open up and have that conversation, and there was no judgment, there was no negativity. It took them out of that space and saved them.
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening. That's literally, I love that story so much. I will always tell it.
What is your, we talk a lot about, last week with Tim on the podcast, he was talking about, really getting the value proposition down for nonprofits can be something that is challenging, because when we're emotionally invested in a cause, we want to share and tell people all of the things that we do. But if you were in an elevator with a just an individual, like what would your elevator pitch be for cultural leadership? What's that value proposition?
Well, no, so cultural leadership empowers communities to come together and bridge racial divides through immersive experiences and opportunities. And that is kind of my elevator pitch. So that is one that's off the top of my head.
That's good. I like that.
What do you hope people gain from a conversation with you personally?
Well, I hope people gain from conversation with me, I think, a better sense of self, and I want them to leave feeling more comfortable and confident and positive in who they are and what they do.
I love it.
How
about you, Stephanie?
Out of a conversation with me, I would hope that people feel accepted and they feel open and that they feel heard, whatever the conversation is regarding. I would hope that from whatever I shared, maybe they feel inspired and maybe even connected. Maybe there's an action item at the end of it, whether it's, us connecting further or me connecting them with something that, inspires them or connects with their passion. I think that'd be a great impact for me in the conversation.
So, Tamyka, let's talk a little bit about where this social justice, through cultural leadership is headed. Talk to us a little bit about, your vision. Like
Absolutely.
What are we building on and from?
So as an organization, we were initially launched as a high school program. So we were a program with a nonprofit, and now we're transitioning to a nonprofit with programs. And what that looks like is internal and external programming. And so internally, we will still hold true to that, life-changing high school programming that's year-long, where we take a 21-day trip to Washington, D.C. and speak with, justices and Congress people and partner with Brookings Institute and do other things. And then tour the South and go to New York and all the things. But we're also launching a year-long middle school program because we find that reaching out to students even younger helps prevent them from developing those kind of negative senses of self and negative perspectives surrounding their peers and communities later, and helping prepare them with the tools to combat, racism, anti-Semitism, bias, recognizing their own bias, even preparing them with the tools to combat bullying in school, and motivating their peers to do more positive things. It boasts better for the future, and so we're launching a year-long middle school program along with some middle school camp sessions internally next year. And then we're also pushing into schools and school districts externally and partnering with organizations that have similar missions to provide some education and leadership training for the students who are kind of connected to them. And then in 2024, we're going to be launching an internship program, a paid internship program for college students. And what that looks like is we are partnering with organizations and nonprofits to, host them as paid interns while we provide DEI and leadership training, and encourage them to come back to St. Louis following graduation and connecting them with companies that may provide them with job opportunities after they graduate from college, so they can start bringing that talent back to the St. Louis region, and building into the St. Louis region and closing that racial divide that we have. And we're also adding a corporate aspect in 2024, where we'll be working with corporations to provide some of the educational pieces that we provide to our students.
That's awesome. That was my subsequent question: is if I'm not a student, how do I glean insights and gain knowledge from cultural leadership? So it's that.
Absolutely, because it's important to kind of touch in all the ways. So we're touching the students, we're touching college age students, we're touching their parents, we're touching, corporations. We're coming at it from multiple aspects and multiple directions because it's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we can't get that work done, and it won't happen if we focus on just a small group. We've really got to expand it, but all while staying true to the core of who we are and what we do. So we're going to be encouraging social change, bringing people together, building bridges, and really just making St. Louis better.
That's awesome.
I think that with all of the growing that we're doing and the multiple touch points that we really have a chance to change just how DEI training is accepted and understood in the United States. I mean, in St. Louis, but I think in the United States long term.
It's like in the universe.
In the universe, because, I mean, we are so unique. I know that. I believe that in my core. We've had several adults tell us that they would rather sit through one of our programs than the trainings that they go through at work. And I think just having that sort of insight and having a diverse team of facilitators, having alumni who are all over the place and involved in so many different things and are spread across so many different career fields. We have voices in a lot of different places. And so whether, you're at a law firm and you are more responsive to people who speak more like you, just like a criminal justice lawyer, whoever that might be, we have connections with people like that. Whether you're looking for someone in the medical field, we have alumni who are there. And so as we bring our alumni back together, as we build our community, I think the possibilities are endless. So I'll leave it there.
It's all about building community.
Mm-hmm.
I have a follow-up question to that, and I think this is of critical importance. You mentioned that you bumped your operational budget by 25%. Obviously, you need funding to be able to bring these resources to the community and to do more work. And to hire more staff to then go out and, to not only be trained on your processes, but then to go and implement those, in these various schools and these communities that they're going to be serving. Where is this money coming from? How can the community help you? If you have listeners that want to get involved, maybe give us an idea of where's your money currently coming from? Are you grant funded, foundation funded, individual donor funded, corporate funded, maybe a combination? And what would you love to see? Where are you building towards?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are funded in all the ways, right? In all those ways. And we actually are transitioning to more donor-based fundraising. And so we've built a portfolio for grantors. So we are applying for grants. So some of the funding comes that way. We've got some really dedicated donors who've been with us really since inception, for 15 to 18 years, who've been funding the work that we do. We've got corporate partners. Nestle has been an incredible partner to us, and a few others over the years. And so it's coming in all those ways. I think as we adjust our product mix, meaning kind of how we are getting funding via the external and internal programming, I think we'll be reaching out to some corporate partners to say, hey, let's talk about what it looks like for us to come in and do some training for your staff. We'll be connecting with, some school districts and others to talk about what it looks like to bring cultural leadership to them and to pull even more of their students into what we do. And so I think those are some ways. And of course, fund us in all the ways. We accept checks, credit card, cash, stock payments.
Love it. Sweat equity.
Right.
Someone to come in.
Volunteers.
Someone to come in and sweep the floors and take the trash out.
Hello.
You can focus on more strategy.
And we have more fun opportunities for volunteering as well, because we do need people from the community to come and kind of help with some of our programming, and that our students are learning how to do speech writing, and they're learning how to do public speaking. And so having people from the community partner with them as they create their speeches, and for our middle school students, they're doing a capstone project. So having, partners come in and kind of pair with them and help them with that are also some good opportunities, I think, to connect to the kids and to our mission and what we do. Anything else? Development management?
We'll also be looking for mentors for the college internship program. And we have a Friends committee that we are launching going into the next year, which will essentially help us raise awareness about our organization, and in 2024 own our trivia night. But I think that'll help you all connect with more people who I think you'd probably like to know, and also connect with our program.
We're a fun group.
We're a fun group.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's show everybody how fun you are with our rapid fire round.
Okay.
Okay. What is something that you've always wanted to learn?
Oh, how to sing.
Give us a sample.
Oh, I would break your microphone.
Just serenade the audience. It's all right. It's probably only my grandma
Lord.
watching right now.
Oh, hey, Grandma. No, actually, I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Actually, I do sing a little, but I always joke that like my dream job would be to be, don't ask me why, a starving country artist in Nashville. I don't know why I'm starving in this dream, but if I could do anything, I'd be a country artist. It's
Because
random.
you've never shied away from overcoming adversity.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say that she could definitely do this, and she could have Beyonce's support because they met
Girl,
before.
stop.
But I'm going to leave that there. I've always wanted to learn aerial arts, like silks and stuff. Yeah.
So I'll play the guitar while you do aerial.
Yes.
Sidebar conversation. Have you thought about sending Beyonce a video?
Will she get it? I don't know.
Like it might not go through her team.
Maybe. I don't know. Find like the
I
most.
don't know.
What are the most important things? What are the things that are most meaningful to her? And then how can we figure out a way to add value into her life in ways that somebody else has not?
Joey, we're gonna hire you.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Figure it out.
So just like a very quick story. So there was someone that I heard keynote at an event, and his name was Jeff Hoffman. And we'll come right back to the rapid fire round, but I feel like this is topical, and maybe we have these limiting self beliefs that are like, hey, I'm not going to reach out to this individual because they have more important people in their network that are vying for their time, and who the heck am I anyway, right? Anyway, so I heard this gentleman keynote at an event, and he talked about resonant frequency. And for him, resonant frequency was when everything is in balance in your life, your personal life, your emotional life, your spiritual life, your business, like everything is just harmoniously firing on all cylinders. And he related it back to how when he was driving his Ferrari that he was finally able to buy, that it was firing on all cylinders. And at 60 miles per hour, the Ferrari went dead silent on the highway. And he's like, oh my God, I thought it was broken. I brought it back to the dealership. And they said, no, it's actually made to function that way. It goes completely quiet at a certain mile per hour because it's in harmony. Everything in that car is precision engineered so that when everything's in harmony, it's just absolutely flawless and perfect in that moment. And anyway, his mother, he was sharing the story of when he was a kid in downtown Chicago, and he first saw a Ferrari and he pointed at the car, and his mom, single mom, raising an only child, said, you're never going to have a car like that, nor will anybody that you ever know. And after he sold Priceline, in 2012 or 13, he bought that car. So anyway, I got his information, took a picture with him. I sent it to his personal email address. He forwarded that to his VA, his virtual assistant. And I said, what's the most important thing to Jeff? I'd imagine it's his Ferrari. And she said, yes. So I happened to have a friend of mine who owned a detail shop in Pennsylvania. I called that friend and I said, please connect with the personal assistant. I don't care what it costs. Go to his house and detail his Ferrari for him. So he did, and buffed it and waxed it and cleaned it inside and out. And anyway, so Jeff got the message that this guy that saw you at an event had your car detailed for you. And so anyway, he ended up reaching out to me the following day and said, I don't know who you are. I don't know why you did this, but you've got 2 hours of my time. I'm flying you to Chicago. And so he's been mentoring me ever since. So now he's been mentoring me for 4 to 5 years. And so I think about, the story's not about me. The story's about how can we find unique, interesting ways to add value to people that don't care about us, but we care so much about them. And you feel like if you can just figure out a way to add value to that person, they might start to care about the things that you're creating in your life. And Zig Ziglar's quote is, you can get anything out of your life that you want if you help enough others get what they want. So how can we do that for Beyonce?
You're right. Or Oprah.
Appreciate
that.
So back to rapid fire.
Okay.
What kind of music do you listen to? I have to thank Lachlan, by the way, for these rapid fire questions. He came
Good
up
job,
with these.
Lachlan. I actually listen to everything with the exception of like heavy metal. I listen to everything else though.
I listen to everything, but favorites are 90s R&B and Afrobeats.
What would you say your irrational fear is?
I have a fear of heights. And I tried to overcome the fear of heights one time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go to Miami and like go parasailing. Yeah, but it didn't work. And now I still won't get on the Ferris wheel downtown.
What is waiting for you on the other side of that fear?
have no idea.
How about you, Stephanie? What's your irrational fear?
Spiders.
Okay.
Just everything about it.
Last words of wisdom, parting advice that you want to leave the audience with.
I think for me, it would be go for your passion, not for the money. So the money will come when you're living your passion.
Get to know the people that you spend the most amount of time with. And that's all.
And also kind of like get to know the people that you don't spend time with.
Yeah.
Learn about people that you don't know. And who don't
Absolutely.
look like you, who aren't in your circle, and who could have absolutely nothing in common with you.
Yeah. I think just going back to our conversations piece, I don't think there's any reason why you should be spending 40 hours a week with people that you don't really know more than their first name. So, and I think that will be a benefit to the workplace and, I mean, you personally as a human. So
That's a great place to leave it. That's worth a mic drop on episode 6. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having
Tamyka
us.
Perine, Stephanie Briggs, Cultural Leadership. Thank you both so much.
Hey, if this episode was valuable to you, then share it with someone that you love, someone that you know that could benefit from it. Also, be sure to subscribe, and depending on how you're listening, go ahead and leave a comment or review. This will help ensure that we are connecting with other nonprofit leaders so that we can get this critical information out to them. And if your company is in the early or even late stages of putting on an event, go to our website, utopiaexperience.com, and click the Book Us tab and schedule a free discovery call to see if our services would be a right fit for your event. And even if they're not, that's okay. I promise you our expertise can steer you in the right direction, so you'll get value either way. Thanks for listening to the Impact Roadmap, and we'll see you next time.